The large meeting room was dark except for the blue light coming from the holographic screen. 23 different alien species sat around the table. They all came from different planets across the galaxy. Tonight, they all had the same problem. They needed to kill a human. Ambassador Vexithar stood at the front of the room. He was tall and covered in black shell-like skin that shined under the lights. He was nervous. His insect-like mouth parts clicked together as he spoke. The humans on Terminus 7 colony have broken our trade agreements 3 times. We tried to talk to them. They refused. We tried economic pressure. They ignored us. We have tried everything peaceful. Nothing works. The other aliens in the room made quiet sounds. They all knew what this meant. When peaceful methods failed, there was only one option left. We must send a clear message. One death, quick and clean. The colony leader is named Jacob Mitchell. When he is dead, the other humans will cooperate. Another council member spoke up. This one was made of crystal that reflected light in rainbow colors. Her voice appeared directly inside everyone's minds instead of through sound. But humans are difficult. Their bodies are strange. They survive things that kill most other species. They heal from terrible wounds. Their minds work in ways we do not understand. Are we certain this will work? Vexthar waved one of his clawed hands. That is exactly why we hired Zixmore. The name made the room go completely silent. Everyone knew about Zixmore, the deadliest killer in the galaxy, someone who had ended the lives of targets on 400 different worlds, someone who had killed powerful warlords, crime bosses, politicians, and military generals, someone who had never failed a job in 37 years. Zixmore was a shadow kin. This species could change their body at the molecular level. They could walk through solid walls. They could become almost invisible. They could turn their arms and hands into deadly weapons. Combined with hundreds of years of training and access to the best weapons money could buy, Zixmore was the perfect killing machine. The contract is already active. Zixmore accepted the job this morning. The human will be dead within 3 days. Far across the galaxy on a dead moon circling a dying star, Zixmore sat reading information about Jacob Mitchell. The file was thick with details. The human was 43 years old. He used to be a soldier. Now he was the elected leader of the Terminus 7 colony. He had a wife named Karen. He had 2 children. He liked to fish in the colony's man-made lake. Every morning at exactly 6 o'clock he drank coffee. Simple, predictable, easy. Zixmore had killed beings much more dangerous than a colony administrator. The assassin's body rippled with excitement. Dark tendrils extended from its form, testing the air around it. This would be another quick job. Another name to add to the long list. Another large payment into the secret bank account spread across multiple planets. Zixmore had never met a human before. That was about to change. The assassin spent the next day preparing equipment. 3 weapons were carefully placed into a special carrying case. First, a molecular disruptor that could stop a heart instantly. Second, a delivery system for neural toxins that worked on most species. Third, a quantum blade that could cut through any known material in the universe. One of these 3 would end Jacob Mitchell's life. Zixmore studied the colony layout on a holographic map. Terminus 7 was small. Only 8,000 people lived there. They were spread across 12 small settlements connected by magnetic trains. The main hub where Mitchell lived and worked was made of prefabricated domes arranged in a pattern like a honeycomb. The security systems looked basic, almost primitive compared to core world defenses. There were automated sensors, but they were old models. There were guards, but not many. There were cameras, but they had blind spots. Zixmore had infiltrated military bases with 10 times this level of security. A civilian colony would be simple. The assassin reviewed Mitchell's daily schedule one more time. Wake at 5:30 in the morning. Leave residence at 6 o'clock. Walk to the small cafe next to the administration building. Order black coffee and something called a bagel. Arrive at office by 6:30. Work until evening. Return home. Repeat. Humans were creatures of habit. This made them easy to kill. Zixmore had killed over 300 sentient beings. Some had been warriors with advanced weapons. Some had been protected by armies. Some had been hidden in secret locations. All of them had died because Zixmore was patient, skilled, and completely without mercy. This human would be no different. The next morning, Zixmore boarded a civilian transport ship heading to Terminus 7. The assassin had changed its body to look like a Tellurian merchant. The disguise was perfect. The body shape was right. The skin color matched. The clothing was appropriate. Even the smell was correct. The transport docked at Terminus 7's small spaceport. Zixmore walked through customs without any problems. The security scanner examined the carrying case. The sensors showed textile samples inside. The guards waved the merchant through. Nobody suspected that the case actually contained 3 deadly weapons. The assassin checked into a hotel room with a view of the central administrative dome. From the window, Zixmore could watch Mitchell's daily routine. Perfect surveillance, perfect position, perfect opportunity. For the next 2 days, Zixmore watched and learned. The human was indeed predictable. Every morning at exactly 6 o'clock, Jacob Mitchell left his home. He walked the same path to the same cafe. He ordered the same food. He smiled at the same people. He sat in the same chair. On the 3rd morning, Zixmore decided it was time. The assassin would strike during the morning walk. The street was usually empty at that hour. Mitchell would be alone, vulnerable. It would be quick. 1 strike with the molecular disruptor. The human's heart would stop. He would fall. By the time anyone found the body, Zixmore would be gone. The perfect assassination. As Zixmore prepared the equipment that night, the assassin felt the familiar calm that came before a kill. No fear, no doubt, no hesitation. Just cold professional focus. Tomorrow morning, Jacob Mitchell would die. The colony would fall in line. The contract would be complete. Zixmore would collect the payment and move on to the next job. It was all very routine. What Zixmore did not know was that Jacob Mitchell was not a routine target. The assassin had no idea that this human had survived 3 wars and 4 previous assassination attempts. The file had not mentioned that Mitchell had 15 years of military special operations experience. The intelligence report had failed to note that Mitchell had once spent 3 years on a ship with a Shadowkin crew member and knew exactly how they operated. Zixmore was walking into a trap. And the assassin had no idea. The morning air on Terminus 7 was cool and fresh. The artificial atmosphere generators worked perfectly, creating weather that felt natural. As the sun rose over the colony, the streets were still empty and quiet. Zixmore left the hotel room at 5:30 in the morning. The assassin's body changed, becoming nearly invisible. The molecular structure shifted until light passed through instead of reflecting off. To any observer, there was nothing there except a slight shimmer in the air, like heat waves on a hot day. The assassin moved through the empty streets like a ghost. The security cameras could not detect this form. The automated sensors registered nothing. The few guards on duty saw nothing unusual. Zixmore was completely undetectable, or so the assassin believed. Zixmore positioned itself in an alley near the path Jacob Mitchell took every morning. The molecular disruptor was ready. 1 shot, 1 second. The target would drop dead before he even knew what happened. Clean, professional, perfect. At exactly 6 o'clock, the door to Mitchell's residence opened. The human stepped out, wearing casual work clothes. He stretched and yawned like any normal person starting their day. He began walking toward the cafe, following his usual route. Zixmore waited. Timing was everything. Too early and there might be witnesses. Too late and the opportunity would pass. The assassin had done this hundreds of times. Every movement was calculated. Every second was planned. Mitchell walked closer, 50 meters away, 40 meters, 30 meters. The assassin's hand tightened on the disruptor. 20 meters, 10 meters, perfect range. Zixmore stepped out of the alley, weapon raised. Jacob Mitchell stopped walking. He turned his head and looked directly at the spot where Zixmore stood invisible. "You know," the human said calmly, "most people cannot see Shadowkin when they are phased, but I spent 3 years on a ship with one of your species. I learned to spot the distortion in the air, the slight bend in the light. Once you know what to look for, you are not as invisible as you think." Zixmore immediately became solid again. This was wrong. Targets did not detect Shadowkin in phase mode. It was impossible. The assassin raised the disruptor to fire. Mitchell moved faster. The human's hand blurred. A weapon appeared from under his jacket. The shot hit Zixmore in the shoulder before the assassin could pull the trigger. The energy pulse knocked the Shadowkin backward. The disruptor fell from nerveless fingers and clattered on the ground. Pain shot through Zixmore's body. This was impossible. Humans were slow. Their reaction time was documented and studied. They could not move that fast. They could not shoot that accurately. This violated everything the assassin knew about human biology. Zixmore phased again, becoming translucent. The assassin retreated through the wall of the nearest building. The molecular structure shifted and passed through solid matter like water flowing around a rock. Within seconds, Zixmore was back in the hotel room, clutching the wounded shoulder. The injury was not serious. The shot had been precisely aimed to disable, not kill. That was also wrong. Targets did not show mercy. They did not wound when they could kill. They fought for their lives with everything they had, unless they were not afraid. Zixmore opened a secure communication channel. The message was encrypted and sent through 17 different relay stations to hide its origin. The assassin contacted the broker who had arranged this contract. Target is aware of surveillance. First attempt failed. Proceeding with alternative approach. Will require additional time. The reply came back quickly. Time is acceptable. Results are required. Payment depends on completion. Do not fail. Zixmore closed the channel and sat in the dark room thinking. This was unprecedented. In 37 years and over 300 kills, no target had ever detected the assassin during phase. No target had ever moved fast enough to strike first. No target had ever wounded Zixmore. The file on Jacob Mitchell was clearly incomplete. The human was not a simple administrator. He was something else. Something dangerous. Across the colony, Jacob Mitchell picked up the molecular disruptor from where it had fallen. He examined the weapon carefully. Military grade, expensive, illegal in most systems. This was not some amateur trying to rob him. This was a professional killer with serious resources behind them. Mitchell had suspected an attempt might come. The trade agreement dispute had been getting worse. The colony had valuable mineral rights that powerful interests wanted to control. Killing the colony leader was an obvious solution for people with no morals. He had been ready. Mitchell walked to his office instead of the cafe. His assistant Lisa met him at the door. She looked worried. "Sir, security reported an energy discharge near your route this morning. Are you all right?" "I am fine. Just a small problem. It has been handled for now. But I need you to do something for me. Increase security patrols. Add more sensor coverage. Do it quietly. I do not want to cause panic among the colonists." Lisa nodded and left to make the arrangements. Mitchell sat at his desk and activated his private communication console. He needed information. If someone had hired a professional killer, he needed to know who and why. He called an old friend. Pete had served with him during the war years. Now Pete ran security for one of the major core worlds. If anyone knew about high-level assassins operating in this sector, it would be Pete. The screen flickered to life. Pete's weathered face appeared, grinning. "Jake. Long time. What can I do for you? I need information. Shadowkin assassin. Top-tier professional. Operating in this sector. Ring any bells?" Pete's smile disappeared. His expression became serious. "Oh no. Please tell me you do not have Zixmore after you. That would be the one. We had an encounter this morning. I am still alive, which I consider a success. Jake, listen to me very carefully. Zixmore never fails. Never. You need to get off that colony right now. Get somewhere with military protection. Get somewhere safe. Cannot do that. I have 8,000 people here depending on me. If I run, whoever hired this killer wins. The colony loses." Pete sighed deeply. "Then you better be smarter than everyone else Zixmore has killed. And Jake, be careful. That assassin is creative. Zixmore will adapt. The next attempt will be different. I am counting on it." The communication ended. Mitchell sat back in his chair, thinking. Zixmore would try again. That was certain, but the assassin would be more careful next time, more prepared. The element of surprise was gone. Good. Mitchell preferred a fair fight. He pulled up files on his computer. Information about Shadowkin biology. Data on their phase abilities. Technical specifications on the weapons they preferred. If he was going to survive this, he needed to understand his enemy completely. Jacob Mitchell had not survived 3 wars and 4 assassination attempts by being lucky. He had survived by being prepared, by thinking ahead, by turning every disadvantage into an advantage. Zixmore was the hunter, but hunters could become prey if they were not careful, and Jacob Mitchell was very good at setting traps. For the next 3 days, Jacob Mitchell changed everything about his routine. He left his residence at different times each day. He took different routes to work. He ate at different places. He never followed the same pattern twice. He also sent Karen and the children away. They went to stay at the Eastern Settlement, far from the main hub. Karen had not wanted to go. She had argued that they should stay together. But Mitchell had been firm. His family would be safe. That was not negotiable. Security around the administrative dome increased quietly. More guards walked the corridors. More sensors covered the entrances. More cameras watched the streets. Lisa coordinated everything efficiently, asking no questions. But Mitchell knew these measures were not enough. Zixmore had gotten through better security systems on other worlds. The assassin was patient and skilled. Eventually, an opportunity would present itself, unless Mitchell created the opportunity himself. On the 4th day after the first attempt, Mitchell made a decision. He opened a communication channel that broadcast across every screen in the colony. Public announcements usually dealt with scheduling or weather or supply shipments. This one was different. Attention all colonists. This is Administrator Mitchell. I want to address a situation directly and honestly. Someone has sent a professional killer to murder me. They believe that my death will force this colony to accept unfair trade agreements. They believe we will surrender our rights because we are afraid. The message paused. Across the colony, 8,000 people stopped what they were doing to listen. They are wrong. We are humans. We do not surrender. We do not give up. We do not let threats control our lives. I am staying. I am fighting. And to whoever hired this assassin, I have a message. You made a mistake. A big mistake. Because now you have our full attention. The broadcast ended. Lisa stared at Mitchell with wide eyes. Sir, was that wise? Now everyone knows someone is trying to kill you. Mitchell smiled grimly. That is exactly the point. Fear loses its power when you face it directly. Now every person on this colony knows what we are up against. Now they know we are not backing down. And now whoever hired Zixmore knows we will not be intimidated. Across the colony, in the hotel room, Zixmore watched the broadcast with something like surprise. This was unprecedented. Targets did not make public announcements. They hid. They protected themselves quietly. They certainly did not challenge their assassins openly. This human was declaring war. Zixmore felt something unusual. Was it respect? Curiosity? The assassin was not certain. In 37 years of killing, no target had ever behaved like this. Jacob Mitchell was not acting like prey. He was acting like a predator who had been challenged. The Shadowkin spent the next 2 days studying everything available about humans. The species was relatively new to galactic civilization. They came from a planet called Earth, a world with harsh conditions that bred tough survivors. Human biology was unusual. They healed quickly. They had high pain tolerance. Their bodies produced adrenaline that gave them temporary bursts of speed and strength. But it was their psychology that was most interesting. Humans did not give up easily. They formed strong bonds with each other. They fought harder when defending something they cared about. And they had a disturbing tendency to turn disadvantages into advantages through pure determination. Zixmore had killed members of over 200 different species. Each species had their own strengths and weaknesses. The assassin had learned to exploit those weaknesses perfectly. But humans were different. Their weakness was that they were individually not very strong or fast. Their strength was that they refused to accept defeat. This made them unpredictable. The assassin decided to change tactics. Direct approaches had failed. Mitchell was too alert, too prepared, so the next attempt would be indirect. Patient. Perfect. Zixmore spent 3 more days watching the colony. The assassin observed not just Mitchell but everyone around him. Lisa, his assistant, the security guards, the maintenance workers. Everyone had patterns. Everyone had vulnerabilities. The assassin learned that Mitchell now worked late most nights. The administrative dome was nearly empty after 8 o'clock. Only a few guards remained on duty. The automated systems ran on predictable schedules. There were windows of opportunity, small windows, but windows nonetheless. Meanwhile, Mitchell was forming his own plan. He knew Zixmore would try again. The assassin's reputation demanded it. No professional killer could walk away from a failed contract. It would destroy their credibility. So the next attempt was inevitable. Mitchell had to ensure that the next attempt happened on his terms, in a place of his choosing at a time that favored him. He began working late every night. He made sure his schedule was visible and predictable. He wanted Zixmore to see an opportunity, a carefully crafted opportunity that looked real but was actually a trap. Lisa noticed the long hours and the odd behavior. Mitchell is making himself a target. Lisa told Pete during a private communication. He is trying to draw the assassin out. Pete's response was worried. That is incredibly dangerous. If his trap fails, he is dead. I know. But you know Jake. Once he makes a decision, nothing changes his mind. Pete sighed. Just watch his back as best you can. Lisa promised she would. But she knew that when the assassin came, Mitchell would be alone. That was how he wanted it. A direct confrontation. One-on-one. No innocent people caught in the crossfire. On the 7th day after the first attempt, Mitchell stayed late in his office until past midnight. He sat at his desk, apparently reviewing documents on his computer screen. The office lights were on. The door was unlocked. To any observer, he looked like a man absorbed in work, unaware of his surroundings. But Mitchell was not in his office. He was in the maintenance shaft above the corridor outside his office. The computer screen showed a recording of him working, looped perfectly. The office contained a thermal generator hidden under the desk, producing a heat signature that matched a human body. To sensors and cameras, everything looked normal. Mitchell waited in the dark shaft, weapon ready. He had been here for 3 hours. His muscles ached from the cramped position. His back hurt, but he did not move, did not make a sound. Just waited, with the patience of a soldier who had spent years in similar positions. At exactly midnight, the power to the administrative dome cut out. Emergency systems should have activated immediately. They did not. The backup generators had been quietly disabled. The entire building went completely dark. Mitchell smiled in the darkness. The trap was sprung. He waited, listening. His enhanced hearing picked up the faint sound of movement. Something was in the corridor below. Something that moved without making noise. Something that existed in a state between solid and not solid. Zixmore had arrived. The assassin moved toward the office door. Mitchell could not see the shadowkin in the darkness, but he could sense the presence. Years of combat experience had taught him to trust his instincts. He dropped silently from the maintenance shaft, landing behind where he estimated Zixmore would be standing. His weapon was already aimed. The lights in the dome suddenly activated. Not the normal lights. Special high-intensity lights that Mitchell had installed secretly over the past week. They flooded the corridor with brilliant white light, and there, caught in the light, was Zixmore. The quantum blade in Zixmore's hand gleamed under the bright lights. The weapon could cut through any material in the known universe. It could slice through the door, through Mitchell, through the wall behind him in a single strike. But the blade was useless now. Jacob Mitchell stood 10 meters away, weapon aimed steady at the assassin's center. His finger rested on the trigger. His stance was perfect. His expression was calm. This was not the pose of a frightened administrator. This was the stance of a soldier who had done this many times before. The heat signature you detected was a recording on a loop, Mitchell said quietly. I have been waiting in the maintenance shaft for 3 hours. I knew you would come tonight. You are predictable, Zixmore. You always attack during shift changes. You always rely on darkness. You always trust your phase ability to escape. The Shadowkin's form rippled with surprise. How did the human know all of this? The assassin's methods were secret, carefully guarded. Yet this target had analyzed and predicted every move. I studied your previous contracts, Mitchell continued. Found patterns in how you operate. You are excellent at what you do, but you follow a system. Systems can be learned, can be predicted, can be exploited. Zixmore calculated escape options. Phase through the floor? Mitchell's weapon would fire first. Phase through the walls. Same result. Rush forward with the blade? The distance was too great. Every tactical option ended with the assassin being shot. The Shadowkin had made a critical error. The assassin had underestimated the target, had assumed human limitations were absolute, had believed the files that said humans were slow and weak. Those files were wrong. I could kill you right now, Mitchell said. Colony law allows it. You attacked me twice. I have evidence. I have witnesses. No one would question my actions. But I am not going to kill you. The assassin's form shifted slightly. Why? Because you are just a tool. Someone hired you. Someone paid you to kill me. That person is my real enemy, not you. You are just doing your job. Zixmore had never experienced this before. Targets did not show mercy. They did not understand the business of assassination. They simply fought to survive. But this human was different. He understood everything. He saw the bigger picture. I am offering you a choice. Mitchell said, walk away. Tell your client the contract is complete. Collect your payment. Leave this colony and never return. In exchange, you live. You keep your reputation. No one ever needs to know that you failed. I do not reveal clients, the assassin said. I am not asking you to. I will find them myself. But I am giving you a way out of this situation. A way that benefits both of us. You get to live. You get paid. You get to maintain your perfect record. All you have to do is walk away, and if I refuse, then we finish this right here and right now. And I promise you, I have survived much worse than you. I have fought in 3 wars. I have survived 4 previous assassination attempts. I have killed beings that would terrify you. So if you want to test me, go ahead, but know that you will lose. Mitchell's voice was hard. His eyes were cold. This was not a bluff. The human meant every word. Zixmore could see it in his stance, in his expression, in the absolute confidence he projected. The assassin had killed hundreds of beings, warriors, soldiers, trained killers. But none of them had been like this. None of them had turned the tables so completely. None of them had offered mercy while holding all the power. For the first time in 37 years, Zixmore made a decision based not on contract terms or payment, but on survival instinct. I accept your offer, the Shadowkin said quietly. Mitchell lowered his weapon slightly but kept it ready. Smart choice. Now leave. Get off this colony. And Zixmore, update your files. Humans are far more dangerous than anyone realizes. The assassin moved slowly toward the exit. No sudden movements. No attempts at treachery. The Shadowkin walked past Mitchell, who tracked the movement with his weapon but did not fire. Zixmore reached the door and paused. One question. How did you disable my phase generator? Mitchell smiled slightly. You did not think that first shot was random, did you? I aimed for your equipment, specifically for the device that allows molecular phase transitions. I knew exactly where it would be. Like I said, I studied your species. I know how your technology works. The assassin felt something unfamiliar. Was it respect, perhaps? This human had done what no other target had ever done. He had analyzed, predicted, and defeated the galaxy's deadliest killer without taking a life. You are remarkable, Zixmore said. For a human. Mitchell's smile widened. That is exactly the problem with the galaxy. Everyone underestimates humans. They think we are weak, slow, predictable. They forget that we survived on one of the harshest planets in known space. They forget that we built civilization from nothing. They forget that we never give up. Ever. The assassin left without another word. Zixmore moved through the administrative dome, no longer using phase ability, just pure stealth and skill. The Shadowkin passed security cameras and sensors and guards without being detected. Within 30 minutes, the assassin was back at the hotel. Within 2 hours, Zixmore was on a transport ship leaving Terminus 7. The contract was officially marked as complete in the assassin's records. The client would receive notification that Jacob Mitchell was dead. The payment would transfer to Zixmore's accounts. Everything would appear normal, but the assassin added something to the file. A note that would be included in the private database that all high-level assassins shared. A warning: species designation, human. Threat assessment, extreme. Do not underestimate under any circumstances. Capable of analyzing assassin methods and creating effective countermeasures. Reaction time faster than documented. Strategic thinking superior to most species. Recommend avoiding human targets unless absolutely necessary. Zixmore sat in the transport ship's passenger cabin thinking. The assassin had never failed a contract before. Technically, this one was still marked as successful. But Zixmore knew the truth. The human had won, not through superior strength or speed or weapons, but through intelligence. Through preparation. Through pure determination. Humans were more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy realized. Back on Terminus 7, Mitchell stood in the corridor for a long moment after Zixmore left. Then he activated his communicator. Lisa, it is done. The assassin is leaving the colony. You can stand down the security protocols. Lisa's relieved voice came through. Thank goodness. Are you hurt? Not a scratch. The situation was resolved peacefully. More or less peacefully. With an assassin? Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to give your opponent a reason not to fight. I will explain later. Right now I need to contact Pete. We need to find out who hired Zixmore. Mitchell walked back to his office. He was tired. His muscles ached from 3 hours in the cramped maintenance shaft. But he was alive. His colony was safe, and he had proven something important. Humans could not be intimidated, could not be easily killed, could not be underestimated. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson, and it would change everything. 6 weeks passed. Life on Terminus 7 returned to normal. The colonists went back to their regular routines. The increased security patrols gradually decreased. The emergency protocols were deactivated. Everything seemed peaceful, but Jacob Mitchell knew the situation was not truly resolved. Someone had paid a fortune to have him killed. That person would not simply give up, because the first attempt failed. They would try again, maybe not immediately, maybe not for months, but eventually they would try, unless Mitchell found them first. He had been working with Pete, searching through financial records and communication logs. They were looking for any connection between the Galactic Council and the assassination contract. It was slow work. The people involved had covered their tracks carefully. Then one morning, Mitchell received a message. It came through an encrypted channel. The source was untraceable, routed through 17 different relay stations across the galaxy. But the sender was clear enough. It was from Zixmore. Mitchell opened the file cautiously. He half expected some kind of trap or virus. Instead, he found a complete data package: names, financial records, communication transcripts, meeting schedules, everything needed to expose the conspiracy. Ambassador Vexthar was listed as the primary contractor. 2 other council members had provided funding. There were messages discussing the assassination. There were payment records showing money transferred to shell companies. There was everything a prosecutor would need to build a case. Attached to the data was a brief message. It was written in simple, direct language. You won because you understood something that most species forget. Survival is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is not about having the best weapons or the best technology. It is about adapting. You adapted faster than I could kill you. That is worthy of respect. Use this information well. Mitchell sat back in his chair, reading the message twice. Then he smiled. The assassin had not just walked away. Zixmore had actively helped him. This was unprecedented. Professional killers did not betray their clients. It violated every rule of their profession. Unless the killer respected the target more than the client. Mitchell immediately forwarded all the information to Pete. He also sent copies to several trusted contacts in the core world governments. Within hours, the story began to spread. Within days, it became a major scandal. Ambassador Vexthar was arrested for violating galactic law. Hiring assassins to kill political opponents was illegal under council regulations. The other 2 council members who had funded the operation were removed from their positions. Criminal charges were filed. Assets were frozen. The investigation revealed that the three conspirators had been trying to force Terminus 7 to accept unfair trade agreements. The colony sat on valuable mineral deposits. The conspirators had business interests that would profit from controlling those resources. When Mitchell refused to cooperate, they decided to eliminate him, but their plan had failed spectacularly. Not only was Mitchell still alive, but their conspiracy was now public knowledge. Their careers were destroyed. Their reputations were ruined. Their financial empires were collapsing. The Galactic Council issued a formal apology to Terminus 7. New trade agreements were negotiated on much better terms. The colony received additional protections and guarantees. Mitchell became something of a hero among human settlements across the frontier. But the bigger impact happened quietly in the shadows of galactic civilization. Word spread through the underworld. The story of how the galaxy's deadliest assassin had failed to kill a single human. How that human had not only survived, but had completely turned the situation around. How Zixmore had walked away rather than continue fighting. Professional killers across the galaxy began updating their files on humans. The species was moved from low threat to high threat. Contracts involving human targets now commanded premium prices because of the increased risk. Some assassins simply refused to take jobs targeting humans at all. The reputation of humanity shifted dramatically. They were no longer seen as weak newcomers to galactic civilization. They were recognized as formidable, not because of military power or advanced technology, but because of something far more important: adaptability, determination, sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. These were the qualities that made humans dangerous. These were the qualities that had allowed them to survive on their harsh homeworld. These were the qualities that would make them successful in the galaxy. One evening, Karen found Jacob sitting on the porch of their residence. He was watching the sunset over the artificial lake. The water reflected orange and purple light. It was peaceful, beautiful. She sat down beside him and took his hand. "You never told me the complete story," she said quietly, "about what happened with the assassin." Mitchell squeezed her hand gently. "Not much to tell. Someone tried to kill me. They failed. It is over now. Pete told me you went up against Zixmore, the most dangerous killer in the galaxy. Pete talks too much." Karen smiled. "He also said you are probably the first person to ever beat that assassin." "I did not beat anyone. I just convinced someone that killing me was more trouble than it was worth." "By threatening to kill them first?" "By showing them that humans do not make easy targets." They sat together in comfortable silence. The children were playing near the lake. The colony was safe. Life was good. Above them, ships moved between the stars. They carried goods and passengers and information across the vast network of galactic civilization. And somewhere in that network, Zixmore was accepting new contracts. But the assassin now checked the species designation first. Very carefully. Not human. Good. The Shadowkin would never make the same mistake twice. Mitchell finished his drink and stood up. Tomorrow there would be meetings and paperwork and administrative tasks. But tonight he was just a man enjoying time with his family. The galaxy had tried to destroy him. The galaxy had failed. He had won not through violence but through intelligence, not through strength but through strategy, not through weapons but through understanding his enemy better than they understood themselves. That was the human advantage. That was what made his species special. Not superior biology or advanced technology, but the ability to learn, to adapt, to find solutions where others saw only problems. As Mitchell walked back inside with Karen, he had no idea that his story would spread to hundreds of worlds, that it would inspire other humans facing impossible challenges, that it would fundamentally change how the entire galaxy viewed his species. All he knew was that he had protected his colony, his family, and his people. And that was enough. The message was clear. Humans were not to be underestimated. Not anymore. Not ever again. 3 months after the events on Terminus 7, Jacob Mitchell attended a conference on one of the core worlds. It was a gathering of colonial administrators from across human-controlled space. They met to discuss common problems, share solutions, and coordinate policies. Mitchell had not wanted to go. He preferred staying on Terminus 7, doing his job, living his life. But the conference organizers had insisted. They wanted him to speak about leadership during crisis situations. Word of his confrontation with Zixmore had spread, and people were curious. The conference center was enormous. Thousands of people filled the halls. Mitchell gave his presentation to a packed auditorium. He talked about preparation, about understanding threats, about staying calm under pressure. He did not mention Zixmore by name. He did not tell the dramatic details. He simply shared practical advice about crisis management. But during the question period, someone asked the obvious question. Is it true you survived an encounter with the galaxy's deadliest assassin? Mitchell considered his answer carefully. Then he nodded. Yes, someone hired a professional killer to eliminate me. The attempt failed. That is all there is to say about it. But how did you do it? Another person asked. How does anyone survive Zixmore? Mitchell paused, thinking about how to explain it. Finally he spoke. The galaxy thinks humans are weak. We are not as strong as Krelians, not as fast as Volosians, not as technologically advanced as the core species, so they assume we are easy targets, but they forget something important. We survived on Earth, a planet with extreme weather, dangerous predators, diseases, natural disasters. We built civilization despite all of that. We did not survive because we were the strongest. We survived because we were the smartest, because we adapted, because we never gave up. He looked out at the audience. Hundreds of faces watched him intently. That is our advantage, not strength, not speed, but our ability to learn, to adapt, to find solutions. When someone tries to kill you using standard methods, you study those methods. You learn their patterns. You predict their moves. Then you turn their own tactics against them. That is what I did. I studied my enemy. I understood how they operated. I prepared accordingly. And when the moment came, I was ready. The room was completely silent. Everyone was listening carefully. The other species in this galaxy have been spacefaring for thousands of years. We are new here. We are learning. But we learn fast, very fast. That is what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons or our ships or our technology, but our minds, our determination, our refusal to accept that anything is impossible. Mitchell finished his presentation to sustained applause. Afterward, dozens of people wanted to talk with him. They asked questions. They shared their own stories. They thanked him for showing that humans could compete in this vast galactic civilization. One young woman approached him during a break. She looked nervous but determined. Administrator Mitchell, my name is Dana. I run a small colony on the frontier. We have been having trouble with raiders. They think we are easy targets because we are human, because we are new to the galaxy. Your story gave me hope. It showed me that we do not have to be victims. Mitchell smiled at her. You are absolutely right. Do not let anyone make you feel weak. Study your enemies. Prepare your defenses. Show them that attacking humans is a mistake. We may be new here, but we are not helpless. Dana nodded, her expression becoming more confident. Thank you. That is exactly what we needed to hear. That evening, Mitchell had dinner with Pete and several other old military friends. They sat in a restaurant overlooking the city. The view was spectacular. Light stretched to the horizon. You have become quite famous, Pete said, grinning. The man who beat Zixmore. That is going to be your legacy. Mitchell shook his head. I did not beat anyone. I just survived. There is a difference. Another friend, a woman named Claire who had commanded a battleship during the last war, spoke up. Jake, whether you like it or not, you changed something important. The galaxy views humans differently now. We are not seen as weak anymore. We are respected, maybe even feared a little. That is valuable. That will save lives in the future. Mitchell considered her words. Maybe she was right. Reputation mattered in galactic politics. If humans were seen as dangerous, fewer people would try to exploit them. Fewer colonies would face the kind of threats that Terminus 7 had faced. I just did what needed to be done, Mitchell said finally. Protected my people. That is all. Pete raised his glass. To doing what needs to be done. To protecting our people. And to proving that humans belong in this galaxy. They all raised their glasses and drank. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Zixmore sat in a private chamber on a station far from any major shipping lanes. The assassin was reviewing potential contracts. Several looked promising. Good pay, clear objectives, standard difficulty. Then one file caught the Shadowkin's attention. High-value target. Excellent payment. But the species designation made Zixmore pause. Human. The assassin immediately declined the contract. No explanation given, just a simple rejection. The broker would be surprised. 6 more never turned down high-paying jobs. But the broker did not know what the assassin knew. Humans were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too capable of turning the tables. The payment was not worth the risk. Zixmore selected a different contract instead. The target was a Tellurian crime boss, dangerous but manageable, predictable, safe. The assassin would never forget the lesson learned on Terminus 7. Some prey was too dangerous to hunt. Some species fought back in ways that could not be predicted or prepared for. Humans were one of those species. Back on Terminus 7, life continued peacefully. The colony grew. New settlers arrived. The mineral extraction operations expanded. Trade agreements brought prosperity. Everything that Mitchell had fought to protect was thriving. Karen found her husband one evening in his workshop. He was building a toy spaceship for their youngest child. Simple woodworking, peaceful, normal. You seem happy. She observed, I am. This is what I fought for. This peace, this normality, this life, do you think it will last? Mitchell set down his tools and looked at her. As long as people like us are willing to stand up when threatened, yes. As long as humans refuse to be victims, yes. As long as we remember that our strength comes not from weapons, but from our minds, yes, it will last. Karen smiled and kissed his cheek. Good, because I quite like this life. So do I, Mitchell replied. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not easy targets. They were adaptable, intelligent, and absolutely determined to survive. Anyone who underestimated them did so at their own peril. Jacob Mitchell had proven that. Not through violence or superior weapons, but through preparation, intelligence, and the absolute refusal to give up. That was the human way. That was what made his species special in this vast galactic civilization, and that was why humanity would not just survive but thrive among the stars. One human against the galaxy's top assassin, and the human had won, not by being stronger, not by being faster, but by being smarter, by being prepared, by being human.